Well, hey, thanks again, Merill. Really an awesome opportunity just to get to spend some time with you. But if you don't mind, and anyone listening in or anyone folks that just kind of hey tune in and check out the video, are you? Can you give me a little bit of background on who you are, what you're up to, what's on in your world? I'd love for I don't know elevator pitch.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, in my day job, I'm a product manager at Microsoft. I work in the Microsoft Entra team, which used to be Azure Active Directory before. So, basically, anything you sign into Microsoft site, say you go to Xbox, you go to your Microsoft 365, the login page you see is basically managed and run by my team. I work on the customer side of things. We have a small team part of engineering that works and helps large. My role is in the large enterprise customer space. So we work closely with a few select customers, get their feedback, get them involved as we are building the product. So we make sure we're building what customers want. And so that's sort of my day job. I also do a little bit of stuff on like open source things, apps and utilities, stuff that I build on the side. And I try to take some of those learnings that I share on the enterprise space and make it more widely available on like social media, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on.
Yeah, I know you have Entra.news, is that right? And that's the mailing list, mail newsletter, and the whole ton of other just command hotkeys, all the things you can access. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Entra.news, we did this rename from Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, in June last year. So it's now all falling under the Entra umbrella. So I thought it's a good time to start like a newsletter which highlights the name, but there's just so much that happens. I was like, when I first joined this team, it was just like a login page, right? Like how much work can there be in one login page? And there's a whole lot that happens behind the scenes for enterprises to make sure we protect, because that's the gateway, right? That's the entry point that everyone is trying to get in, from the bad guys and the good guys, and we should be able to tell the difference between who is who. So that's it's a very interesting space. I come from a dev background,
Nice.
and I just sort of accidentally fell into cybersecurity and in identity right now, but I'm loving it. The community is such an awesome space.
Yeah, there are incredible people without a doubt. I mean, I see it all over Twitter, probably most or X, right? But you're always sharing incredible insight there. I think Nathan McNulty always has great stuff. Of course, Kuba Gretzky, right? I know there was
Yes,
some
yeah,
chatter and conversations about, oh, what can we do about these either conditional access policies or things that can help better protect a whole Microsoft 365 tenant and a lot of that Entra ecosystem. Um,
absolutely.
I don't know. Can we dive in there, or is there any more that you want to chat about? Either other stuff that you're putting out online. I know you're getting started with the YouTube channel and everything, just trying to get more info out. What else is going on in your world?
Oh, I'd like to build some apps. Like one of the more popular one of what I do is cmd.ms.
Yeah.
So I'm always doing like demos to customers, and I need to go into a blade in the Microsoft, one of the Microsoft portals, and there are just so many, and you have to click through many times. Like conditional access is a good one. Like in the Entra portal or Azure portal, you go in and make a change to a conditional access policy. So you need to click a few times to get to the blades that you want to. When I say blade, it's a screen in the page in the portal. So I sort of created this open source repository and project where you just type in the a short URL, and it'll take you right into the page. So folks on Azure, there are so many blades on Azure. Like you go on work on VMs, you work on like the network stuff. There are so many. So you can just say, I lined it with the Azure CLI. So if you use AZVM to manage virtual machines, you can just say azvm.cmd.ms in open any browser, type that in. You're just taken straight to the Azure virtual machines blade. So you don't need to click on different things. Because you're in the flow and you're doing something and you want to get to a blade, you once you go in and you sign in, then you see other things popping around, and your flow sort of gets broken. And this for me lets me just get in like conditional access. I just type en for Entra, enca is conditional access.cmd.ms, and so
You're
that's
there.
like widely used by a lot of folks to it's like a super user power user hack to just get into different parts of the Microsoft portal.
Well, it is a super handy resource. So, hey, thank you. Thank you for putting that together.
Nice. Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and I run it all on Cloudflare, which is
Oh,
I really am a Microsoft employee, but I'm a huge fan of Cloudflare, and really, the whole thing runs on there, and it's been like uptime is like 100% on that, and super fast. So
goodness, there are
nice.
so many things that I'd love to ask, and I want to pick your brain on, but I do totally want to respect. Like, I know you're working at Microsoft, and I'm sure there's plenty of moving pieces and lots of cogs stuff to make the machine run. But are you? Is there much that you can share about what your day looks like, or I don't know, anything that you spend more time in than you do others? Is there a focus really? Or are you kind of the jack of all trades and all?
So it depends on the team that you're in. And in my team, and even within our team, there are different people with different strengths. So uh, in my team, we are called the Custom Acceleration Team or the CAT team, because what we found is you don't build products in isolation, right? You need customer feedback. And we want to basically work with customers and deploy things and take those learnings back into the product. So my day looks like I work with these large enterprise customers. They have unique challenges, and try to help address their requirements and solutions, how they want to achieve things. And then we usually come up with things where they want to do stuff, but it's not possible yet. So we start off work on collecting that different feedback. And my team is global, is across the globe because requirements in Australia are slightly different to enterprise customers in Europe and in the US. So we sort of work across the globe to sort of bring that feedback, that insight into the product team. So we have awesome, what we call feature PMs who basically write the specs and get the stuff like they own the features. So if you see like Windows Hello for Business, if you see things like the login page where you see MFA or the Authenticator app, we have dedicated feature PMs for each of those. So they manage and they run that capability. So they do all of that. But me as working with an enterprise customer, I can take some of these unique insights that customers have and take it in. Now, those feature PMs also, they do a terrific job. They do so much. I'm like in awe of them. They have to work with the engineering, they have to work with customers, like such a big scope of work that they have. I mostly work with customers and try to help things with that. But I do get involved in like reviewing feature specs and providing that sort of feedback. I work on one or two features. My area of specialization is on Graph PowerShell and
Nice.
the CLI. I like doing some of the hacking and various things. I work closely with that specific feature PM. Is an awesome guy called Steve from Kenya. So yeah, we work closely on all of the like the customer pain points and trying to resolve those.
May I ask, when you do get to chat with a heck of a lot of those enterprise customers or even whatever size business, and they kind of are discussing their pain points or the things that they're either worried about from the cybersecurity sense, is there uh, is there a sort of trend, or is there are the the most common things that they bring up? What is hottest in your mind, or something that, hey, is just a recurring thing that gets discussed? Is that passwords? I think passkey is something that I don't know if you're chatting about, or is it more two-factor authentication? Oh, hey, those FIDO2 keys. Is it I don't know, more of the conditional access policies, just geolocation stuff? In my mind, I figure there's a whole wide world, but are there any that
Yeah.
stick out and continue to be, hey, that's the sore spot that we want to keep chatting about?
Yes, so MFA used to be the big thing, and a lot of my like the large enterprise customers have moved to enforcing MFA. So they started off with enforcing MFA from internet traffic that's coming in over the internet,
Yeah.
and a lot of my customers have transitioned. They've moved to doing MFA even on-prem. So it doesn't matter whether you're on the because there's this whole idea before that if you are connecting from a local network you didn't need to do MFA. They just found it hard to get everyone to set up MFA and all of that. So that's sort of been the bigger focus the past years. Recently, it's been to deploy MFA everywhere, so you don't leave any exclusions. Like, say, if you're coming in from your laptop, the company laptop, they used to exclude from MFA and so on. So a lot of the enterprises have moved to doing MFA everywhere, and the experience is crazy because they go like, one customer I helped them deploy, and they were like, we're seeing less MFA prompts because they want the project team that was implementing it. They wanted to show stats saying, "Oh, we implemented MFA, and now there are more prompts for MFA." But what they saw was less prompts. So that's because it's a better user experience when you deploy MFA everywhere. Because as you switch between networks, you actually get prompted. But when you don't switch, sorry, when you have MFA everywhere, the tokens have the MFA claim inside them. So even if you're inside, outside, the MFA claim is included, and users actually see less prompts because as they move between networks, that they've already done the MFA, so it doesn't matter for them. So it's overall a better experience, and on Windows and um, across all of the devices, we protect those tokens, the primary refresh tokens. They're bound to the device and so on. So it's actually a much better experience. There's work you need to do to get to that experience in an enterprise where it's all like managed devices. They control what goes into this into that operating system. But yeah, so MFA everywhere is better experience for end users, and it's been an awesome. Like when they look at the stats, it's like less prompts, which which is good for the users. They see they have much. They don't see. They don't need to be doing MFA all the time, and you're basically training your users to get fished. So at Microsoft, we have this vision of showing an MFA prompt only once per user per device.
Mm.
That's all we want to show them, once per user per device. We don't want to show them an MFA prompt again unless their risk profile changes. So we just don't want to be blindly prompting user with an MFA prompt every day or every week or every other week, and training them to, hey, you see a login screen, just type in your password and give it away. So we want to change it to be just only based on risk, and Entra Azure is intelligent to prompt for the MFA when we notice you suddenly coming in from a new IP. Say you went to a cafe, then we notice that, and then we prompt you instead of setting up this static thing of prompting every day or once. I know like some companies have more prompts, the better, more secure. So they just prompt like every 8 hours.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
I-
yeah,
is is that traditionally, oh, hey, just Microsoft Authenticator pulled up on their phone, or uh, is it still just a real big push? Like, are those hardware tokens the best solution that we've got right now? Or I wanted to open the door for you for passkeys just as well, if that's still some, if that's something that you're in the world for.
yes, yeah, absolutely. So we've announced this at a few Ignite, and everyone's like waiting for all of this to come out. We are testing it internally right now and with some of our customers. So it's going to be coming out soon. So before I get to passkeys, yeah, FIDO2,
Yeah.
Hello for Business. Um, Hello for Business has been built into Windows for a long time, but it's been a bit of a chore to set it up and configure it. So last year we introduced like the Hello for Business configuration used to be like 20 pages long. So admins you
Mm.
needed to like read this whole thing, set up all this crazy, like it took days and months in an enterprise to roll it out. So last year we launched this thing called Windows Hello for Business Cloud Trust, which is like it's literally like one page of a to follow the
Nice.
instructions for admins to turn it on, and they get like completely phishing resistant sign in on their Windows desktops, and almost all new desktops that you buy in the last 3 years or more come with all of the stuff built in. So, like, the TPM chip and all of that. So you get it, you have it for free. You just need to turn it on, right? So, and I think in the video that I shared, I showed a demo of like, remember the one you did for the Evil Jinx?
Mhm.
And I showed that with Windows Hello for Business, it basically stops all those phishing attacks. So, like my day job is this just telling customers to deploy stuff they've already paid for. They have everything. they
Yeah.
they've got
Flip a
it. They
switch.
just need to turn it on to protect their users. So if you think of the word passkey, it's sort of the rebranding of FIDO 2.
Hmm.
Hello for Business has had it forever, and that's been our thing. So like you can just turn that on. You get phishing resistance, and that's been part of helping my customers move to MFA everywhere. Hello for Business is like the big thing because in the desktop is where a lot of those phishing attacks and things they try to come in more than in those mobile scenarios. So that's there. But FIDO 2 takes it up a notch. But the problem is FIDO 2 is the biggest thing is the cost, right? So when you take an enterprise with like 80,000 users, it's going to cost them 1 million, 2 million to like just deploy YubiKeys for all of the users. So that's the catch for them. And then the whole managing the FIDO 2 key, giving out new keys, and having like you need to have at least 2 keys if you go only with FIDO 2 keys because you need a sort of a backup mechanism, right? So everyone needs to have at
Uh,
least two if you want, like if you're going 100% only FIDO 2 and like no password in your tenant.
have
But
you
that's
seen
the
that? Is that growing in numbers or?
yes, so it's not that big yet where
Mhm.
you go 100% passwordless. But it is getting
Possible?
there. Like
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
because in an enterprise there are lots of scenarios where it's still hard. Like if you have a remote session, then it's a lot harder to do RDP into a VM, into like a Windows VM that you need to
Right.
remote into. We've updated the RDP protocol itself now to support FIDO 2, so you can do a FIDO, you can plug in your FIDO 2 and use it on the
Oh,
remote
wow.
session. It does require like the newer versions of Windows and so on. And in an enterprise, you have like old versions of Windows there for a long time. So it takes a while for them to get those updated. So eventually it will get to that state where it's like ubiquitous everywhere and they can use it. But yeah, right now it's sort of these growing pains of getting to there. And passkeys is going to like, um, hopefully, like we've all been trying to kill passwords for, for a long time. Fingers crossed passkeys is sort of like the whole industry is behind it.
Yeah.
Apple, Google, Microsoft, and if like it should happen this time, right? It's if we can get consumers to switch and use that, then that's going to be the bigger win. But passwords are so easy from from a dev perspective.
Yeah.
It's such an easy way to just put up a login page, collect the username, password, and do the sign in. It does take more work to do that, but there are lots of solutions now, identity providers, and like there are so many. Like we have Microsoft, we have B2C, we have a product called Entra external ID that we allow customers to
Hmm.
uh, build for using, like, signing, creating login pages. So the biggest problem is developers, right? They need to build web apps that support like all these different passkeys and technologies. So you can roll your own, but you can use third-party products that do this. And there's a lot now that are coming up. So we have Entra external ID, and there are lots of others like Superbase and like Google Firebase, and like there are various third-party services that wrap everything together, like identity database. So helping developers do it without them having to write all of that code. So hopefully we'll see more adoption of this, especially with everyone's iPhone now being a passkey. You can get phishing resistant sign in for that.
Right away. Like that's very cool. That's awesome. And I know I heard you say, and I think it's a big one that I'd love to kind of harp on because you've you've already given, hey, here are the security solutions. You've got them for free. They're already part of maybe the things that you're working with, but it's just a matter of turning them on. And just a matter of going to configure and enable it. Is that is that the uphill battle that we're currently fighting? Is the issue like can we get more awareness and get more education out there? Just I know, hey, Microsoft, of course, is holding the megaphone. You all are screaming that out, but is there more that we can do? Is there more that the rest of the industry should do? Is it just as matter of telling everyone how to do this?
Yeah, exactly. It's more telling everyone, raising awareness. Like
Yeah.
this whole like evil jinx has been so good because
I
when
was
you can
worried when
show
I put out that
people,
video. I was like, I hope no one's mad at me.
yeah, it's this sort of two-edged sword, right? Like whether you, like even in my video, I didn't want to show how to set it up and like how easy it is to just install it. Like you did on a Linux box, right? But for all of the Windows admins, like on Windows, it's so easy to just set it up and
Yeah,
get it up and running. And you want to be careful about who the audience is that that looks at it. So when I did the video, I wanted to focus more on protecting because that's my side of on the Entra
for
side of
sure.
things. But it's crazy easy to like just set it up on Windows and have like a proxy with the your thing showing up. But even out of the box, there are lots of protection already if customers deploy like the standard things. But yeah, there is this two sides to the story of like raising awareness because it lets people see, and there have been many who have said, so after seeing that how easy it is to fish someone, they've actually got stakeholders like saying yes, go ahead and build it, because in an enterprise there's so much priorities, there's day-to-day work happening, and the the teams are so small. You'd think like there are large teams doing all of this, but it's most probably someone multitasking between doing so many different things. uh, and in for small businesses it's even harder, right? Like I help one of my brother-in-law, I help him with his sort of business that he has running an M365 tenant. He has zero IT, like no one there,
Mm,
right, to do any of this stuff. So,
jack of all
so I
trades,
sort of
usually.
help him
Yeah.
out, and like that's in the Microsoft space. That is like a large percentage of our customers, those small medium businesses, and that's why, from Microsoft's perspective, we try to make it as simple as possible for them. We try to turn on a lot of things for them because what we saw is just like with MFA, right? We enabled it, it's turned on, but we didn't force turn it on because it would cause a lot of disruption. But we keep seeing all these accounts get compromised. So over the last 2 years, we went ahead and basically enabled it by default for like all of our tenants. So we
Nice.
sent out emails, let people know, and then the security defaults sort of was turned on, and it was good for me to watch and see my brother-in-law react. So he got this email saying, "You need to turn on MFA," and he's calling me asking like, "What do I need to do now? What should people be doing?" But yeah, so the idea is without an IT team, at least those small businesses which are only using everything in the cloud. They don't have an on-prem server. They're just all running in the cloud, getting them up to sort of a healthy bar from a security perspective, like turning off all those legacy protocols we had for SMTP, where we had those basic auth endpoints where someone can run password spray attacks. So we basically killed a lot of those off in the last year too.
Man, I love seeing or hearing a lot of those new like improvements and changes to make things better. And if I may, I think maybe another one, and I don't know if this is all in your wheelhouse or not, but I'm curious if just some thoughts that you might have had because we're doing awesome and incredible things, kind of stacking things up for before something bad happens. If an account were to get broken into, if an identity were to be stolen, credentials, whatever access, and there's oh sure the bad word incident. What can I ask if we kind of shift the conversation to after an incident has occurred, some way, somehow, prevention failed. Are there more tools in the toolkit that we can kind of use for detection, or just are there other logs? I don't know. Are you in Purview all that much? Are there any other artifacts? I think everyone was super excited when hey we had more accessibility to get to some of the logs for a
Yes.
subscription tier or so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, right. Yeah, so with an incident I've seen, I think Nathan has mentioned, and
yeah.
one of my good friends, Matt Zorik, he's over at Microsoft on the other side of the coast in Australia. He's in Perth. So he was part of the Dart, what we call the Dart
Mm,
team. So they are the team at Microsoft. Uh, they advertise themselves as it's the team that you wish you never had to call because they come in after there is an incident and they try to help you get to everything and get you back into a safe state. So that team is growing. It's actually growing a lot bigger right now, and to help all of enterprise customers. But yeah, part of their thing is to take those learnings and then publish it. So there is a Microsoft Security blog where we continuously share a lot of these tips. Like he wrote this monster post on just on identity over the Christmas. So like I'll share the link with you,
Please, yeah.
where he goes through all of the things you can do, and a lot of it's to do with identity, and the logs, what you need to go, how you need to look at things, and some of the things you can do before. So I know it's just going off topic, but one thing you mentioned is what's the new thing we are seeing? You asked me like what's happening. So as we see people deploying more strong MFA everywhere, then moving to phishing resistant authentication. So for the attackers, now it's becoming harder to like do those phishing things, even like depending on the org.
Right.
But what they are now switching to is like getting the entire like the token,
Mm.
right? Getting the token out through some malware, etc., getting the token out and then replaying that and using that. So token theft and token protection is the new set of things that like I'm seeing my bigger enterprise customers focusing on. So what can they do to, even if the token is taken out, how is it made rendered useless? Like that cannot be used to sign into things. So that's where sort of the shift is happening, or at least because the bar is being raised, so you can't fish if you deploy phishing resistant auth everywhere.
Mm.
So that basically stops that in the tracks. Then the next option is to, okay, we don't care how they signed in, they have the tokens. Let's just take those tokens and then you can use that to get into an account from somewhere. So that's
What are some of those, I guess, either protections or kind of something to key off of or identify? Like, oh, now the rogue actor has access to a token. They didn't get it over phishing. Maybe some, yeah, you mentioned malware just scrapes it out of an application that was signed in. It was in memory. Is that just, oh, now we're seeing a new session or at least new activity coming from a wild different location or at a random time of day? How can I ask either just the behavioral analytics in that? Do you guys get to zoom in on or scope out to try to find the anomalies in what's rogue?
Yes, so there are different things that are happening. So one is
Yeah.
there's an industry standard that's trying to bring this concept of tying the token to the device. So even if the token is taken out, without that combination of the device for which the token was issued to, the token becomes useless. But for that to work, you need the OS vendors, the browsers, like all need to. It's an open standard, and everyone needs to implement it, and the apps need to be written to sort of support that and do those checks. Today, you can just take a token, it's a string, just copy and paste it anywhere else, and then you can start using it. And you can't just block it because people move, right? So
Yeah.
you might use a VPN and disconnect and connect, then you're suddenly coming in from somewhere else, but it is a valid use case. So you can't just do a hard no, but what's happening is initially lots of the enterprise customers are focusing on those high privilege like admins signing in where they can, like, you don't expect them to use that identity to use for like their email or for their teams or the chat messages. So those tokens, they're trying to bind them and apply those things. So we have things like token binding, etc., that we're working on. That it's a new standard. We're evolving and like working, contributing to those standards as well, and trying to get it. So right now we protect just one app, the Outlook email. So we just, because it has to be, like, we need to update the service, the applications, like all need to be made aware of this thing of protecting the token. So if the app can show the right message to the end user, because we need the whole thing, right? The user experience, all of that needs to work well. So that is one area that we are trying out. We just did an initial, what we call a public preview release, and we're getting feedback from customers who want to say enforce that. But it's very limited right now, not for everything. But our hope is to expand that over time. So that's one side of things. On the other side is the detection. So how do we detect that a token is being used from somewhere else? So in Entra, in the logs, we share all of that, and we do give signals as well. So when we detect it, there is a built-in feature in Entra that gives you sort of detections on when we notice the risk. So we do that with like password spray and other things already. So even if you're on the free tier, for example, one thing that people are not aware is if you have a leaked credential, say your password is leaked online, and then that we notice that leaked credential, we can we put a signal into the logs, into the alerts of the tenant saying we noticed there's a something wrong with this account. So the admins can then go in and see it. But the problem is there's a lot of those alerts, and then admins need to, like, you need to investigate it, right? And that's where it
Right.
comes into, there's someone managing identity and there's a different security team, and they are looking at different logs, and they're not across the some of these instances. So it's only when the Dart team goes and investigates, then they say, oh, we saw this signal like months ago, and it just didn't trigger the right amount of flag for someone to investigate. But yeah, so we do have those sort of checks for token theft, and we're adding new detections all the time. So we started adding this thing where you can take out a primary refresh token and use it on another Windows device. So we've added detections where we can detect and say that it's there's something there. And
Uh,
the free versions of Entra, etc., come with just the signal. So you just
mhm.
know that that happened. You need to do stuff. If you have more the premium versions, like we call it P1, P2, depending on the licensing, you can create a dynamic conditional access policy that says, if you see this, then block that user from signing in. So it automatically sort of kicks in and blocks the user. So we use a lot of machine learning. We've been using it for a long time. Now it's AI and all of that.
Right.
But this machine learning algorithms, they've been tweaking and tuning it to detect those replay attacks, etc., and send out those signals. So we have a thing where we say we have a low confidence, medium, or high of the signal, and then we let admins configure what they want to do. So some say, I'll just throw up another MFA prompt for when I see this, or some might say if I see a leaked credential, like someone checked in found a password dump, and Microsoft found that dump, like that have I been pawned thing that Troy
Mhm.
Hunt has.
Oh yeah.
So sort of that similar concept, but we like do it automatically for the enterprise accounts and block those sign-ins.
That's awesome. That it's hey, it's no secret. My day job is over at Huntress, and we've been trying to get smarter on a whole lot of that Microsoft 365 and the Entra ecosystem, and kind of how we can do our best to I don't know, get our hat in the ring and protect and do right by cybersecurity and small mid market businesses. And we've been just kind of doing some skunk works, R&D, thinking on a lot of those, like, oh, what are the levers that we can pull or play with for, hey, maybe have I been pwned, or just trying to keep track of those identities and their logins and their access. It's still some that we're feeling out, but I think we do have some friends over at Microsoft and some folks that we can kind of pick their brains on. So I'm always grateful, and we're super thankful for the partnership and kind of us working together here and there. So grateful for
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
Microsoft
love that.
can't do everything on our own, right? Like that's it's such a big space, and our partners us help make us better. So we there's on Twitter there's Dr. Ajay. He recently
Yeah.
joined Microsoft
That's
now,
great.
so
Oh
he
yes,
built
is
this
he
tool.
with you?
Like, yeah, he just started not directly in my team, but
Okay.
part of the Microsoft security. So I'm in the Microsoft security org. So Nestori, Dr. Nestori. So he joined Microsoft this month, I think, a few days ago. I need to still ping him on Teams and say hi. But yeah, he publishes the AAD internals, and it's sort of those toolings that actually help and sort of raise awareness for enterprise customers and others about what can be done and what you should be doing to detect that usage and so on. It's again there, it's sort of a double-edged sword. I think we see some of the bad actors using those same tools. So that's
Right.
um, it it depends on how the usage is. And I've seen lots of conversation on Twitter, on X, about how far you should go to reveal things versus not. And yeah, it's always fascinating uh, conversation.
Well, hey, I think I don't know. I hope the best that we can do is at least get the education and the awareness out there, but put in the best light of like, look, this is for defense, this is for protection, this is to bolster security and not act with ill intent on that. Like the whole cheesy knowledge is power thing. Like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, we're using it for the right reasons. And with that, hey, I know we've been chatting for a little bit, and I totally want to be cognizant of your time. So maybe if I could, just
Yep.
a wrap up question for you, out of all the things that we got to kind of discuss, okay, maybe two questions. For one, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you'd like to sprinkle in? Anything else that is important and in the front of your mind? But maybe blending in that, um, is there something that, or are there things that you absolutely want have enterprise businesses or small mid-market companies and organizations, what should they know? Like, what, hey, with your brother doing an MSP or any business, anything,
Yep.
what should they know to get all this right with the Microsoft ecosystem here and everything that we're doing for security?
Yeah, so with all of our enterprises, it's the story is always about some people try, they read this, they see all this, and they want to get to, okay, I want the like the strongest security. I
The
want to like
best.
go pass keys, the best, right? But then they find soon like the rubber meets the road, and then they're like, oh no, it's too hard, and they just give up. But so the message that like I want to share that I've seen enterprises fail on is just do a little bit at a time. Like just don't try to boil the ocean, do one small step at a time, things you can do in the next month, and then just slowly iterate. It'll be amazing how much you can achieve in like a year or 2 years when you just do the small stuff, the basic things, get people across the line. Like some people go hello for business, oh it's too hard to deploy to the entire org. um, just start small with your own identity team, like focus on that, then focus on the admins, then focus on all of IT in your org, then roll it out to the rest of the org, because attackers want to get into your accounts, right? Not to the person who's just sending out emails,
Mm.
working with various docs. So start protecting, like for people who are in IT, your team and the extended team, and just start small and go and just keep doing the same thing. Like MFA everywhere, do that. Like that's the bare minimum you should be doing today, and do it at least within your own team, because you can get that buy-in and roll it out, right? And then you get familiar with it. The help desk teams get familiar with all of the issues. Then you can slowly expand it to the rest of the org. So like don't try to bite off everything in one go. Start small and do. But it really helps if there are stakeholders like who say yes, like they say, yeah, like it's losing this is going to affect our business in a big way. If customers can't trust us, then that really helps drive everything, because then you can do it as part of your day job. But before joining Microsoft, I've been in the same space where there are lots of business-led initiatives that you need to be working on when you're in IT, and because that they bring in the money, but and the things in security are sort of like second tier and not that important. And it's really up to the warriors, the folks who see it and want to do it themselves. So they do it in their spare time, get the right ticks involved and like doing those things. So it's rewarding, but most people don't see all the hard work that you do when you're in IT and doing all of that. And or some just give up, right? Like they just do only what's needed for their job. But if you can start small and do, and the stakeholder thing is sort of the biggest challenge that we have. And we publish some material for like how you can talk to your size, how the size, like CISO workshops and so on, that sort of help them make the case with the right stakeholders. So there's a lot on the Microsoft side where we try to address it even like from those different areas, because it's not just the tech stack that's the problem in rolling out these things. Obviously, when you get involved, it's too late, right? Like people have already been compromised. Then there's this whole thing where people can do it. But yeah, it's a thankless job in IT to like do it on your own, push against the out of the wall, but do it a little bit at a time, and that you'll be amazed at what you can achieve in a year to 2 years. Because a lot of the things that I do is just getting customers to deploy what they already have paid for.
Yeah.
You don't need to
And they're
buy
still
anything
go.
new. Like my whole day job is getting people to use what they have already paid for.
Are there any other tactical resources or things just, hey, getting started? I don't know if it's the Entra documentation, or is it, oh, some quick start guides or Microsoft Learn or anything? Stuff that
Yes, yes.
put the pedal to the
We
metal?
just,
Yeah.
yeah, on Mike, I'll share the links with you. So on Microsoft Learn, we just published some new training. So we have the docs, which are really good, but people don't like reading docs. Like half my job on social media is taking a page and then making it into like a small infographic that people can just get the whole idea in a visual way in a few seconds. But the docs are so awesome. But it just you need to go in and put in the time and effort
Yeah.
to read that. But we did publish some new courses, so you can do it like a training. So it's like it says it's 1 hour or 2 hours. You can click through. It's like a structured way to learn Microsoft Entra. So I'll share that link with you. We've been adding or creating some of those courses recently.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that would be phenomenal resources for anyone tuning in. Hey, wanting to get smart on this, get sharper on this, and get better. And I know you said, hey, you can't boil the ocean here, but if we work towards it, that's the best we can do. And you're all doing incredible things. Again, I always get to see Microsoft from afar, but I'm glad there are new improvements. I'm glad there's new progress. So thank you for all the incredible work that you do, Merill. And this was a sweet conversation. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a lot of good time. I've started my YouTube channel explaining
Yes.
Entra, doing small things. So to your audience, if you want to learn about Entra, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to start with some basics, and then I try to do just 7 to 10 minute shows where I just can introduce one concept at a time. So feel free to subscribe to my
Heck
YouTube
yeah.
channel. I'm trying it out this year.
We'll absolutely put a link in there and hey, hopefully send you some love. So thank you again and again,
Thanks.
Meryl. And we'll tune out. Thank